What if I told you there was an MLB team that won the World Series even though they seemingly couldn't score runs? Sounds impossible, but in 2010, the San Francisco Giants did exactly that. All season long, their bats were average at best, ranked in the bottom half of the league for runs scored, and entered the playoffs with by far the weakest lineup. So how did a team that struggled to score runs all season win baseball's ultimate prize? Well, in order to find out, you need to become familiar with a few players. They fielded the back-to-back Cy Young winner Tim Lincecum, reigning All-Star Matt Cain, and one of the best bullpens in the game featuring setup man Sergio Romo and closer Brian Wilson. So as you would expect, with the potential to have the best pitching department in baseball, the team came out of spring training with high expectations, although the fans still had their reservations. During the offseason, they didn't add any big pieces to help their offense, which ranked 26th in runs per game in 2009. Instead, they opted to bring in veterans Mark DeRosa and Aubrey Huff. Due to this, fans believed it could be their 7th straight season of missing the playoffs, especially as the offense struggled out of the gates, amassing just the 20th most runs scored during the opening month. The club still went a respectable 14-9, but it was clear the offense needed to get going in order for them to compete in the NL West. Unfortunately though, things got much worse. In May, the offense was cold as ice, most notably between the 17th and 23rd, when they scored 1 run or fewer in 5 of 7 games. Now, their offensive slump was from a multitude of reasons, but none more prevalent than the regression of Pablo Sandoval. When he debuted in 2008, he burst onto the scene, turning heads with a high batting average and sneaky pop. If the team had any hope of making the playoffs, it was clear he needed to carry over his early career success. But instead, his bat went quiet. In May, he hit just .234 with a .617 OPS. With his production missing, it was no surprise the offense struggled. The team desperately needed a spark. Thankfully for them, they boasted one of the most exciting prospects in the game, Buster Posey. After being drafted 5th overall in 2008, he breezed through each level of the minors. For this reason, his season debut on May 29th held all the more excitement.
Into center field and a base hit. And here comes Sanchez. And Buster Posey, in his first at-bat this year, knocks in a run. It's 2-0 Giants.
It wasn't just him. Everyone in the lineup seemed to feel the spark.
He hits it high. He hits it deep. Out of here.
Eli Whiteside, first pitch, down the left field line, and gone!
It felt like the season was finally turning a corner, and as the warm Bay Area air rolled in, the team began firing on all cylinders. The pitching was dominant, the bats were waking up, and the defense was as sharp as ever, helping them go from 5 games back in the division at the start of July to just 1.5 back of the Padres by the end of the month. But despite their surge, they were unable to close the gap any further, entering September 3 games back. With not many games left, it was a sprint to the finish line. It definitely helped that the Giants' pitching staff went on a generational run. From September 5th to the 24th, they held their opponents to 3 runs or fewer in 18 consecutive games. A streak so rare you'd have to go all the way back to the 1917 Chicago White Sox to find one like it. But it doesn't stop there. The Giants posted a team ERA of 1.89 during September, the lowest single-month figure since the divisional era started in 1969. Yeah, not bad production to get from your pitching staff, and allowed them to erase San Diego's lead during the last week of the season, one which they would not be giving back.
The Giants are champions in the National League West, and let the party begin.
You could see the emotions running high throughout the stadium. For the first time in 7 years, the Giants were headed to the postseason, something not many people thought was in the cards for them at the start of the year. But thanks to their incredible pitching staff, they overcame all doubt. In fact, their pitching was so dominant, they held opposing teams to 3 runs or fewer in over half of the games. Even a bottom-ranked offense would be able to find success with that level of run prevention. And while the offense was no longer ranked bottom 5, it was still worse than league average at 17th. And among the 8 playoff teams, it was by far the worst. Meaning, if they had any shot at finding postseason success, the pitching would need to continue operating with a razor-thin margin of error. That challenge became even more daunting with their first-round matchup against the Atlanta Braves. But instead of their bats causing the problem, it was actually their pitching, taking advantage of the Giants' struggling bats. To start off, Derek Lowe carved through the Giants inning after inning, allowing just 1 base runner to reach scoring position the first time through the order. It wasn't until the second time through before he found trouble.
Strike zone just a little bit if it's a pitch. Ground ball through Infante into left field. They're going to wave Posey in. Here comes the throw to the plate, not in time, and the Giants lead it 1-0.
With 2 outs, Cody Ross came through with a clutch hit to put the Giants ahead in the 4th inning. Don't get me wrong, the game was far from over. After all, it was only a 1-0 lead, and in 2010, teams held a less than 10% winning percentage when scoring just 1 run. But with Tim Lincecum on the mound, it was all the cushion he needed.
Strikes him out, and that'll do it in the 1st inning.
Everything Lowe was doing, Lincecum was doing better.
Chases a pitch low and away, and that is the 3rd straight strikeout for Lincecum.
He was on a roll all night long, retiring the final 11 batters he faced to secure the Game 1 victory.
13 strikeouts for Lincecum. That's a Giants postseason record. He's 1 strike away from another one. It's strike 3 call. 14 strikeouts for Lincecum. A brilliant pitching gem, and the Giants take a 1-0 lead over the Braves.
Entering the postseason, many critics were wary of the Giants due to their inability to score runs, calling it a recipe for disaster against stronger teams. But in Game 1, they proved that dominant pitching can be even more valuable, a sentiment they needed to hold on to after dropping the 2nd game in extra innings.
And a fly ball hit deep to right field, and this ball is out of here and over the seats. Rick Ankiel into the Cubby Cove. Ball and 2 strikes to Cody Ross. And a fly ball hit to shallow left field. And going out as Gonzalez calls for it, makes the catch, and the game is over. And the Atlanta Braves overcome a 4-run deficit and beat the Giants 5-4 in 11 innings.
Losing Game 2 after leading by 4 runs hurt. Now heading away from their home ballpark, the momentum of the series began to shift in Atlanta's favor, especially with their ace Tim Hudson taking the mound. At 34 years old, he showed no sign of slowing down with one of his best seasons of his career, tossing a .284 ERA in 34 starts. He looked to bring them ahead in the series, but he would be doing so without much help from his defense.
Facing Tim Hudson, and the pitch is hit into the air to right field. Jason Hayward going back, ball carrying, and this ball is going to be off the wall and off the top of the glove. And Fontenot on his way to 3rd will go in with a stand-up triple.
We can give Jason Hayward a pass here due to it being a difficult play, but the mistake on the very next pitch was inexcusable.
Pops up the first pitch, and Brooks Conrad in right field drops the ball. And the throw to first base and diving in with the run is Fontenot.
It wasn't the most conventional way, but the Giants couldn't care. They had taken the lead and gave Jonathan Sanchez something to work with. Just like Lincecum, he was untouchable on the mound.
Again, the 3-2 pitch, and he strikes him out. 3 strikeouts in a row for Sanchez, 11 in the game.
He too looked like he could go all the way, but following a leadoff single in the 8th inning, it was time to hand the game over to Sergio Romo out of the pen. For the season, he was one of the most dominant relievers in the game with a .218 ERA across 62 innings. However, in this instance, he was bested.
And a drive down the right field line. And this one is going to be a home run, Eric Hinsky.
To start the at-bat, 4 out of the 5 pitches were sliders. He knew what was coming next, and Romo hung it right over the heart of the plate, in his eyes, crushing the Giants' hopes of a win. But they did have one thing going their way, and that was the absence of Billy Wagner in the Braves' bullpen. With him on the mound, it would have been unlikely for them to generate any offense. Now in his absence stood a young reliever by the name of Craig Kimbrell, a flamethrower who had just 21 big league appearances under his belt. He was inexperienced, and the Giants took full advantage.
Ground ball up the middle and a base hit. Ishikawa will stop at second.
All they needed was one more out. Both two men reaching, the Braves decided to bring in lefty Mike Dunn to face lefty Aubrey Huff, hoping the same-sided matchup would allow them to close out the game.
And a line drive to right field. It's going to drop in front of Hayward, and they're going to send in Ishikawa. Here's the throw to the plate, not in time, and the Giants have tied it 2-2.
Despite being down to their final out, Huff, who had been one of their best bats all year, came through with a clutch hit to force the Braves' hand in the bottom of the inning. But with a runner still in scoring position, the question remained, would it be with a lead?
And it reaches out at one through the legs of Conrad into center field. The run will score, and going to third base.
It wasn't pretty. Honestly, looks like they could have used me out there. Anyways, it didn't matter how they scored. All that mattered was that Brian Wilson was coming into the 9th inning with a lead. A situation where he had shut the door in 48 out of 53 regular season tries.
Ground ball right at Sanchez. He'll make the play at first, and that'll do it. The ball game is over, and the Giants, with 2 in the 9th, have come from behind and beaten the Braves 3-2.
It was a disheartening way to lose from the Braves' perspective, but in the opposing dugout, everyone was roaring with emotion, knowing they were just one more win away from advancing. The man tasked with closing the door was Madison Bumgarner. The former first-round pick enjoyed a dominant spell after being recalled in late June, tossing a 3 ERA in 18 starts. He even got better as the season rolled along, allowing just 5 runs in his final 38 innings. Because of this, his manager Bruce Bochy said, "We have all the confidence in the world that Madison will go out there and give us everything he's got. This kid has no fear." Bumgarner reinforced that mindset by saying, "I'm pretty relaxed for it. I'm going to have the same demeanor, just trying to keep the same as always." Being just 21 years of age, it would have seemed daunting for a young man like himself to go out and pitch a potential series clincher, but he stuck to his words and performed like normal. By the end of his night, he had gone 6 strong innings, allowing just 2 runners to cross home. It was a commendable postseason debut for the rookie, but across from him stood veteran Derek Lowe, who was pitching even better, only allowing 1 run through 6 innings. But while the Giants dug into their bullpen, the Braves stuck with Lowe into the 7th, a decision which ended up costing them everything.
2-2 pitch grounded into the hole, knocked down by Gonzalez, and safe. Ground ball in the hole and a base hit. Posey will score. Pat Burrell rounds third. Here comes the plate of the plate, and Burrell is out at home. But Posey scores, and the Giants will take a 3-2 lead into the bottom of the 7th.
Once again, the Braves were undone from lousy defense, but that's what happens when you put the ball in play. You put the pressure on the defense, and in this series, the Giants exploited that fact en route to a series victory.
The throw across in time, and the Giants have won the series. The Giants are going to the NLCS for the 5th time in their history and look to win their 4th West Coast pennant.
This was San Francisco's first series victory since 2002, but they wanted more. Now, all that stood in front of them and their chance at World Series glory were the Philadelphia Phillies, arguably the best team in baseball. Their lineup was chock full of stars such as first baseman Ryan Howard, second baseman Chase Utley, and outfielder Jason Worth. A strong group, but it was their pitching staff which blew teams out of the water. Roy Halladay, in his first season since his move from the Toronto Blue Jays, posted one of his finest campaigns of his career, which included just the second postseason no-hitter of all time just a week earlier. He anchored the rotation with another ace-caliber arm in Cole Hamels, and at the trade deadline, the team acquired Roy Oswalt from the Houston Astros. Together, they overpowered the Cincinnati Reds in the divisional round, allowing only 6 runs in 3 games. With this in mind, the Phillies were picked as the clear favorites. But once play started, it became clear that the Giants' pitching staff could rival any. In Game 1, Lincecum outdueled Halladay narrowly, as the two exited after 7 innings, with the Giants leading by a run. Simple enough for the bullpen to prevail.
There he goes, and a strikeout ends the night. Game 1 belongs to the Giants.
Evidently, the Giants were playing winning baseball, but because of this, their offensive struggles were being masked. For example, in their 4 wins, they scored only 11 runs. It was clear this team's offensive problems from the regular season had carried over, and it was on full display in Game 2. Oswalt had every batter's number, well, everyone's except Cody Ross, who hit his 3rd homer of the series. But besides him, the Giants mustered just 2 other hits, allowing the Phillies to take a commanding Game 2 victory.
Left side, Rollins has to hurry. Game 2 to Philadelphia.
Due to this loss, their offensive struggles finally started to become more scrutinized. Since the start of the postseason, their best bat, Aubrey Huff, was hitting .217. Their leadoff man, Andre Torres, had a .274 OPS, and power bat Juan Uribe had an even worse mark at .269. These 3 were crucial components to their lineup, but so far had made little impact in the playoffs. And because of this, it put the pressure on the pitching staff. But as they had done all year long, they thrived knowing it was all up to them.
Good start for Kane. That's strike 3. To the second baseman, Sanchez. Down on a knee. Inning over. 7 shutout innings from the San Francisco right-hander now in the books.
Just like in the divisional round, Kane was lights out, tossing 7 scoreless innings to jump ahead in the series. An advantage they doubled with yet another tight victory in Game 4.
Huff will tag and carry home the winning run in Game 4. Giants win it 6-5.
At this point, everyone around baseball was starting to realize the threat the Giants posed for the World Series. But the back-to-back pennant winners weren't going to go down so easily. In a rematch of the Game 1 starters, this time it was Halladay who came out on top, delivering 6 strong innings to give the Phillies a beacon of hope heading into Game 6. Just 1 win away from a trip to the Fall Classic. So all hands were on deck, but the game didn't start off as planned.
The Phillies take a first inning lead. Utley delivers for Philadelphia. 1-0. In the air to left center field. Back is Burrow at the track. It's 2-0 Philadelphia on a sac fly by Jason Ward.
A 2-0 deficit in the first inning sounded impossible to overcome knowing this offense, especially if the Phillies continued to tack on runs. But instead, their pitchers had their back. Jeremy Affeldt came in for 2 perfect innings, and Madison Bumgarner followed him with 2 scoreless innings of his own. At this point, the pitchers kept them in the game long enough to generate some offense.
Here comes Torres to the plate. Throw home in time for out number 2 for San Francisco. Here's Posey with a slow roller to third. Polanco with a bare hand pickup. The throw hits the runner. In to score is Huff, and this game is tied.
After leveling the score in the top of the 3rd, it stayed tied all the way through the 7th, before an unlikely hero stepped up to the plate.
Here's Uribe flying one into right. Back at the wall. This ball is gone for a home run. Juan Uribe has gone deep. And with that, the San Francisco Giants lead Game 6 in the 8th.
Maybe I shouldn't have said unlikely. After all, during the regular season, He trailed the team lead in homers by just 2 and RBIs by 1. But in the playoffs, it was a whole other story. Entering Game 6, he recorded only 2 hits in 25 at-bats. Nobody needed this homer more than Uribe, and it proved to be the difference maker.
It's this battle, Brian Wilson, Ryan Howard, who wins? 3-2 pitch. Got him looking, and the Giants win the pennant.
It took a full team effort to get past the favored Phillies. Not many thought the Giants would make it this far, and the same could be said about their opponents, the Texas Rangers. They were the underdogs against the Tampa Bay Rays in the divisional round, then again in the championship series against the New York Yankees. But each time they were able to overcome the odds and made for an interesting series. Not only would it be a clash of 2 teams looking for their first World Series trophy, but the Rangers also came in with the most hits in baseball and the second most runs per game in the American League. And in Game 1, they came out swinging.
Right back up the middle off Lincecum, a run will score, and the first run of this World Series belongs to Texas.
Elvis Andrus tacked on another the following inning.
In the center, Molina will tag. Torres will come up throwing. The play at the plate. The throw is wide. Safe at the plate. 2-0 Texas here in the second.
And numerous other players chipped in to put 7 past the Giants.
Back at the track, this ball will drop. It checks up in front of the warning track. 2-run score.
During the regular season, the Giants won 4 out of 23 games in which they allowed at least 7 runs. With this in mind, it would be a safe bet that they lost this one too. But that's where you're wrong.
That's a line drive, base hit to left. In to score, Renteria. Torres will hold it third. It's 2-1. Line drive, left center. 1 run scores as it's 2-2 in the third.
Thanks to Freddie Sanchez and Buster Posey, the Giants tied the score in the 3rd inning. In the past, this is when the offense would have typically slowed down, although this time they continued to pile it on.
That's in the air to left center field, and the Giants have their first lead of the night. 2-0. High fly ball to left. Uribe shoots one out. The 3-1. Down the left field line, going to get it, Cruz over his head, another run.
By the end of the night, they had put 11 runs on the board, their most in the postseason thus far, finally taking the pressure off the pitching staff.
Kinsler on 3-2, pops it up, should end the night. Shearholtz coming on. Giants win Game 1.
It felt inevitable. Through the first 10 games of the postseason, they topped 3 runs only twice. But what better timing to get the offense rolling than Game 1 of the World Series? And the beauty of it all, this momentum carried over into Game 2, as they scored 9 runs to take a commanding 2-0 lead in the series.
Say it quick. Shearholtz with a final out, and the Giants win it 9-0 up 2 games. 2-0 in this World Series.
The Rangers didn't have an answer to anything the Giants threw at them, and while they did win Game 3 to make it at least somewhat interesting, nobody believed it was the start of a comeback, rather a consolation prize in a series the Giants were destined to win.
Here it is, struck him out, and for the first time since 1954, the Giants are world champions.
For the first time since moving to San Francisco in 1958, the Giants were World Series champions. Few believed it was possible. Their offense had been a constant struggle all season and ranked as the worst heading into the postseason. Yet, against all odds, they prevailed. Outfielder Pat Burrell captured it perfectly when he said, "When you talk about the 2010 team, the opening sentence better be about the pitching. It's what ultimately brought them the championship. An improbable feat for a team labeled as one that couldn't score." Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. Please consider subscribing for more baseball content just like this. Also, if you would like to learn about a different World Series, one that effectively killed one of the greatest dynasties in baseball history, then click the video on your screen.